13. Cal sprinted forward, ducking right as a bolt of gift fire seared past his cheek, the flames licking his skin. He pivoted, shoulder twisting, and flung his chest back just in time to sail over a second bolt. The awkward landing sent a jolt up his shins. It forced him to slow his pace. Gritting his teeth, he regained his footing. A third bolt soared toward him. No time to move out of the way. Cal sucked in a breath and swung the jagged blade's flat side into its path. The gift fire ricocheted with a crackling snap, exploding into the ground a few feet away. The prefects let out a trio of gasps, one stumbling back a few steps. "What the? Did he just—" a prefect stammered. "Tide, take me! It's him!" Cal didn't give them the chance to recover, didn't allow himself to savor the deflection. He continued his sprint, and the moment he got within range, he stamped his foot, spun low, and drove the jagged blade into the first prefect's side. Before the man could scream, Cal rammed his dagger into the prefect's throat, silencing him with a gurgle. Pain blazed in Cal's shoulder as another firebolt clipped his shoulder, the impact wrenching him sideways. His grip slipped from the hilt of the jagged blade. His leather armor smoked, having absorbed most of the impact, but the heat still seared his flesh. Cal snarled, grabbed the hilt of his blade again, and hauled the dead prefect upright. The corpse's weight strained his arm as gift fire thudded into it. With a roar, Cal charged, slamming the body into the second prefect. The man went down hard, helmet clattering against the cobblestones. Cal wrenched his blades free, pivoted, and stabbed. Once, twice, into the standing prefect's stomach and chest. Onyx steel punched through the blue and silver armor like paper, and the man crumpled, blood frothing at his lips. The last prefect flailed beneath his dead comrade, legs kicking. His brand flickered, too panicked to channel the gift. Cal stared down, savoring the fire in his veins, the adrenaline in his muscles. With the jagged blade flipped in his hand, Cal rammed it through the throat of the deceased prefect. With ease, the blade punctured dead and living flesh alike. The floored prefect wailed and sputtered, his panicked expression falling slack, his alert eyes losing focus. With one last look of contempt, Cal jerked the blade free and dashed into the warehouse. Cal pumped his legs, sprinting through the corridors. He had no idea where he was going, but that didn't matter. From the outside, the warehouse hadn't looked that large. It wouldn't take him long to run into his friends or another prefect patrol. Either would do. Rounding a corner, he slowed his pace and cast his gaze around the large open room. The room felt empty, despite the large iron drums that stood to the left. Gift canisters. Cal rapped his knuckle on the nearest canister. Empty. Above, a metal walkway coiled toward a foreman's office. Voices from further across the space carried over to Cal. Panicked voices accompanied by the jostle of armor-clad footsteps. As silently as he could, Cal clambered up the space between the iron canisters, using both to brace himself. The shadows under the walkway swallowed him as three more prefects entered the space. "How many are there?" the most panicked-looking prefect asked. He was young. His voice squeaked with inexperience as he spoke, and he held his sword hilt at the wrong angle. He would be the first to fall. Next to him, a helmeted prefect scanned the room. His armor fit slightly better, the leather straps worn in, shaped to his shoulders. The helmet added a rasp to his breathing. "No idea. District's crawling with the scum." The last prefect removed his helmet and ran a hand through his thick, well-groomed beard. Cal studied his posture, straight, but not stiff, his breathing calmer than his cohorts. A sword hung on the left side of his belt, his right hand ungloved, his brand glowing. This last prefect was more experienced than the other two, likely a prefect captain. Definitely a challenge, What should we do, sir? Squeaked the young prefect. Reports of a lone rebel at the front entrance. He has already taken out 3 of our men. We're their backup, the experienced prefect barked back, more of a reminder than an answer. As quietly as he could, Cal cut off the topmost wooden clasp of his leather armor, adjusted his position for purchase and aim, then threw the clasp at the iron canister furthest away from his position. The clasp hit the canister with a clang. All 3 prefects spun, brands flaring. Swords up! Barked the captain. The young prefect jumped at the order, almost dropping his blade. Riles, take the corridor. Sten, go see what that noise was. Right, Sten squeaked, inching toward the last iron canister on the row while his comrade made for the corridor Cal had just come from. Cal latched his fingers into the walkway above and made his way over the tops of the canister, legs first, moving as slowly as the situation would allow. He almost felt sorry for Sten as he lowered himself back to the floor. The young prefect trembled, waving his sword back and forth as if he was trying to swish away the danger. Sten, anything! The captain called from the other end of the row of canisters. Nothing here, sir, Sten called back, turning as he spoke. Cal shot forward and grabbed hold of the young prefect, one hand covering his mouth to muffle the scream, and dragged him back into the shadows. He ripped a small dagger out of the boy's belt and plunged it into his neck. Sten kicked out the last of his life, his boot finding purchase with the canister. Cal hissed, tossed the body to the side, and clambered back up, not caring about making noise. Sten! The bearded prefect called out. Riles, bring that canister down! Metal shrieked as Riles's gift wrenched the canister beneath Cal apart. Cal toppled forward. He grunted as he hit the ground, a shard of broken metal biting into his leg. The destroyed canister sent up a large cloud of dust, forcing Cal back. There he is! The captain snarled, drawing his sword and flaring his brand. Cal rolled as gift fire exploded against the ground. Heat blistered his back, the blast stronger than usual, more focused. The captain was a potent. Scrambling to his feet, Cal grabbed a piece of broken metal and hauled it in front of him. A second potent blast hit the metal dead center, throwing Cal back against the wall and knocking the air out of him. Got you! The captain loomed over Cal, his sword raised for the kill. Rebel scum! Cal hooked the man's ankle, yanking him down. Bringing himself to his knees, he leaped forward and plunged the jagged blade in the prefect's gut, then chest, using each strike to pull himself forward. Dull emptiness replaced the rage and terror of the captain's gaze. Riles roared with anger. He rushed toward Cal, his outstretched hand lined with twirling wisps of green. The jagged blade jutted ever so slightly in Cal's hand, and he chuckled to himself at the futility of the act. Want it? He said calmly. All yours. He drew back his arm and threw the jagged blade at the prefect, hitting dead center. Riles grasped at the hilt sticking out of his chest before crumpling to the floor. The adrenaline of the moment passed. Pain lanced through Cal's body, his limbs and muscles sore from impacting with the wall. He arched his back, hearing the pop and crack of a few bones. Nothing broken. He looked down at the gouge across his leg. Nothing that needed immediate attention. No reason for him to slow down. New shouts echoed from deeper inside the warehouse, along with yelps and gift blasts of another fight. Cal's chest fluttered, but he steeled himself and set off toward what he hoped were his friends. The shouting faded as Cal sprinted through the warehouse. Though he knew Shay and Jord could handle themselves, ice-cold tendrils ran down his spine, drowning out the burn in his leg. When gift fire exploded around the next corner, he pushed harder. His shoulder flared with pain as he slammed into the wall, using the impact to rebound around the bend. Physical pain was easier than losing another friend. He found Shay crouched over Quentin, dabbing at the blood masking half his face. His tailored jacket hung in tatters, its gaudy embroidery sliced to ribbons. Jord paced nearby, his posture reduced to a nervous hunch. Jord! Cal called out, skidding to a halt. Jord whipped around and fired before Cal could blink. Gift fire grazed his temple before igniting a stack of wooden crates nearby. Oh, Cal! Jord said, his eyes wide and chest heaving. Sorry. Cal glanced back at the burning crates. You need to work on your aim. Ah, Cal. Quentin winced as Shay applied ointment across a weeping gash bisecting his torso. As grand an entrance as always. A bloody grin accompanied his mock salute. That looks bad, Cal said, nodding toward Quentin's wound. This, nothing more than a flesh wound. I'm more concerned about the coat. Quentin plucked at the ruined fabric. Do you have any idea how much this cost me? I really have no idea, Cal replied, rolling his eyes and allowing his body to relax. And I really don't care either. Well, you can rest assured that as soon as the lovely Miss Shea here is done pampering me with her gentle touch, I shall be fit to deal with the reprobates outside. Quentin huffed as Shea pushed down his attempt to stand, giving her a wink and another dastardly smile. No need, Cal said. They've been dealt with. Quentin's head jerked back. 7 prefects? Alone? Even one as talented in doling out death such as yourself would balk at the idea of facing down 7 prefects, all by your lonesome. His tone was more playful than serious. 6 prefects, Cal said, staring back, his expression in no way matching Quentin's. Cal slowed his breathing as he waited for Quentin to respond. He'd not met this man many times, but each had left an odd taste in his mouth. He didn't dislike Quentin. Not really. But he didn't like him either. It was beyond Cal how Jord could spend more than 5 minutes talking to him. Shay stood, wrapping what few medicinal items she'd brought in a cloth, and nodded to Jord. Jord immediately dropped to Quentin's side. He cradled his face and placed a long kiss on his forehead. I thought I'd lost you. Oh, Jord, it's going to take more than a few prefects to tear me away from you. Quentin's tone shifted from playful to something else, bordering on sincerity, but not quite there. Cal eyed him, frowning as he tried to figure out what was bothering him. How did they find you? Shay asked, receiving a glare from Jord, as if this wasn't the time to be asking him questions. Shay ignored him. How did you end up here? Quentin gestured for Jord to help him stand. How they found me, I've no clue. But as soon as the fighting started, I knew they'd be after me. Not my men. So I led Undis's finest on a merry chase through the swell. He held up his arm, smiling despite his obvious pain. And as you can see, my plan was a rousing success. Although I am glad for your assistance, far too soon for someone as handsome as me to go down in a blaze of glory. Quentin chuckled. Shay and Cal didn't. Your hideout was destroyed. No survivors, Cal said, his words as clipped as his patience. Oh. Quentin's smile faltered. That's how tragic. At least you're safe, George said, resting his head against Quentin's again. Indeed I am. Quentin turned to Cal, mask back in place. I take it you were here for reasons other than my general well-being. Do not get me wrong. I am extremely grateful for your assistance. However, I doubt one with Cal's reputation is all of the sudden making house calls. Actually, we're here because of that reputation, Shay answered, throwing Cal a look. An underwell crime boss wants to meet with him. Quentin chuckled, holding his fingers against his chest. And how does this involve me exactly? You know the man we're meeting. Name of Dredge. Quentin leaned back, his eyes wide like a character in a pantomime. Dredge is a serious player in the underwell. More so than our little ragtag group of pluck and spit adventures has any experience in dealing with. It's a good thing you came to me. Great. Lead us to him, and you can consider us even for saving you. Cal grunted, wanting nothing more than to be moving on. Pray tell, dear Cal, why does Dredge want to meet with you? What could one of the most influential crime bosses in Undis want with a lowly hollowborn? Cal rolled his eyes as Shay looked his way. Cal is the chain breaker, Shay said, stepping in front of Cal. Quentin's brow extended further than before, his mouth open and slack, like a group of old fisherwives hearing the latest juicy piece of gossip. Him? My, you are just full of surprises, aren't you? I'm sure you hear this all the time, but how did you do it? How did you cut the chain? Cal flexed his hand. The wounds left by the chain pulsed as if they were suddenly paying attention. Images flashed through his mind. The ethereal chain wrapped around his arm, Ovette's still form on the ground. The images were hazy, like trying to remember a dream from days before. His head thumped the more he tried to keep the memories from fading. I don't know, he growled. Can't remember. Can't, or don't want to. Cal scoffed, thinking back to those days was hard enough for him. In the blink of an eye, he'd lost everything. Ovette, his home, the people of the Embers, all dead because of him. Because he wasn't fast enough, wasn't smart enough, wasn't enough. Does it make a difference? Cal grunted. I'd say it makes all the difference, my boy, Quentin said with a smirk. The chains of each city are seen as monuments to Daven rule. Removing such monuments would galvanize the people. Even in the face of Igni's destruction, the Chainbreaker has become a beacon of the downtrodden, the one Uden who stood against the people of the Daven Empire and succeeded. To these people, you're somewhat of a hero. Cal's scowl deepened with every word Quentin spoke. His fists started to tremble. Before Quentin could continue, Jord interjected. Perhaps we should relocate this conversation. I fear we have lingered here for too long already. Of course. Quentin extended his arm. Help me, would you? Jord complied, looping Quentin's arm around his shoulder, and helped him limp out of the warehouse. Ah, to be in your arms once again. 'Tis more than this humble rebel deserves, my prince, Quentin said, smiling at Jord. We should hurry. The district is likely to be on high alert by now, Shay said, looking toward Cal. Guessing you didn't clean up after yourself again. Cal shrugged off the comment. Didn't think about it at the time. Mayhap we could use the underground canal system. There should still be a small watercraft sequestered within its shadowy embrace, Quentin chimed. He's right, Jord continued. Something of an escape plan should the worst happen. Oh, it happened, Quentin added, smirking again. Where? Cal asked. George gestured toward a series of square metal grates that ran along the floor. That last one. Pull it up. George leaped in first, turning to receive Quentin as Cal helped lower him in. He bit his tongue as Quentin made a meal of being taken care of. Shay was next, but she stopped and turned to Cal before descending into the escape hole. You've got that look again, she murmured. What's on your mind? Cal watched Quentin as he regaled Jord with exaggerated heroics. You trust him? Shay waited a few seconds before answering. No. Good, Cal replied, his voice barely above a growl. Me either.